Back to The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker HD one last time. We're finishing it off this episode. Last time I awakened the first of two sages to return power to the Master Sword. No side questing to start things off this time, we're going right for that second temple. North of Windfall Island is Gale Isle. I've passed it a few times but now I'm going to do something with it. There's a huge gust of wind blowing out of this statue in the back, but with the iron boots I found inside Icewing Isle last time, I marched through those winds and smashed that statue with the skull hammer, revealing the entrance. Inside is another slab containing another 6/4 song. Up, up, down, right, left, right is the Wind God's area. With that I've learned every Wind Waker song in the game. Like last time, a ghost appears. Here it's a Kokiri, the Wind Sage Fado, and actually the final Kokiri seen in the franchise to this day, even 20 years later. He gives pretty much the same explanation Laruto did, that he used to pray to keep the Master Sword powered up, but Ganondorf found the Wind Temple and murdered the shit out of him. To pass on the Sage power, I need to find the one his violin eventually passed down to. So Fado has the same name as that one unique blonde Kokiri NPC in Ocarina of Time. I wonder if that's why I used to see rumours that this Fado was a girl in the Japanese version, which as far as I'm aware is not true. Possibly a way to try and pass for two characters with the same name off as actually being the same character. So I return to the Forest Haven and can hear music outside and see notes coming from a waterfall near the bottom. I position my grappling hook in a way that lets me swing through to find a hidden cave. Makar is down here practicing his song for the next ceremony in secret, so that it can be a surprise for everyone. He wasn't expecting the sound to make it past the waterfall. I pull out the Wind Waker and Makar gets all excited, wanting to be conducted, so I play the Wind God's aria for him. Like with Medley, the song feels familiar to Makar. The image of Fado appears over him and he and Link play the song again, getting applause from a non-existent audience. Makar fades back in and is now aware that he is the new Wind Sage. He asks to be taken to the Wind Temple and ends up sitting on the King of Red Lion's head. I return to Gale Isle and the King gives the same advice he gave me with Medley. We go inside and I play the Wind God's aria once again to get rid of the slab and open up the entrance to the Wind Temple. Once again the two find a hole and jump down it. Makar moves slower than Medley, so I found it quicker to just carry him through the next door. In here is a pair of springs needing the iron boots to press down. The door is up on the opposite end of the room, but there's a pair of gales blowing down from the ceiling. So I drop down and have to take out a Wizrobe and Stalfos. Around the corner is a water pot to open up as well. Here's where I take control of Makar. I can have him plant seeds in these little bits of soil to make a tree grow out of it. In this case, growing the two trees I can here spawns a chest. Makar can also spin his leaves to fly for a bit. The thing with Makar is that he's just more awkward to control than Medley thanks to the way he moves, and isn't as fun because of it. I fly up behind the wind in the back to press a switch that turns the wind off. Back to Link, I open the chest for an orange rupee. Back up to those springs. I climb on and put the iron boots on to press it down. I then take them off to release it and send myself flying into the air. From there I use the Deku Leaf to float to Makar and go through the door with him. First off in this room I have some armors to take care of. There's a propeller in here that I can use a Deku Leaf on to lift the wall in the back. Past it I have Makar fly past the moving blade trap and plant two more trees in front of the barred door to open it. In here there's a barred door to the right and a few platforms going up, each with soil to plant trees with. I plant them and the one at the top by another barred door. This opens both doors in here, but a group of floor masters show up and snatch Makar while you can't do anything about it. I can't get up that way yet, so I have to settle for the door on the right. But first I drop down to the middle here and plant a bomb to spawn a chest. This one gets me the final Tingle statue, the Wind Tingle statue. I then go through the door to this large circular room. We're going to be coming through this room a lot as it spans many floors. To the left from the entrance I've already found where Makar is jailed, but this time I can't get him out right away as there's a big stone head in my way. Instead I take out the Armos Knights and go through the door opposite where I entered from. There's another rotating wall here and a cracked bit of floor you can bomb away, but standing on it with the iron boots gets rid of it too. I deal with the floor master down here and leave the propeller to rotate the wall. But that's created a ceiling, so I spring back up and walk over it to find another slab, but without Makar I can't remove it yet. There's a door to the right of it though. There's a current coming from below but a big wall in the way. Instead I use the wind to carry me to this nearby switch that rotates a bit of the wall to make a bridge. I hover to it and find another current past it. I ignore it at first and cross the platforms leading straight on, hovering over to a chest containing the dungeon map. I go back to that wind and use it to pass through a couple holes in a couple walls to reach the end of the room and another door. This takes me back to the big room Makar is jailed in, but the next floor up. There's a switch here to press with the iron boots that opens up the floor below and gets me access to the bottom floor of this room. Nowhere else to go, so I drop down, landing on a platform near the bottom holding a chest containing the compass. Down at the bottom there are two doors, but one is locked, so I go through the other. This room has a chest on an elevated bit of floor blocked off by a spiked wall. but there are cracks in the floor I can break through into a small basement with a load of choo-choos and Armos. There's a spring on a block I can push and I place it on this marked tile near the block. I push the other block up close so I can jump onto the spring and bounce myself up to the chest for a small key. This also lowers the spike wall. Returning to the main room, I cross over to the door opposite and unlock that. Here I have a mini-boss fight. It's a large red whiz robe who can spawn in over strong enemies. I have to keep killing the constant stream of enemies it calls in while also avoiding the fireballs it sends out. And make sure to get the picture since this has its own figurine. Between all these enemies I have to get the rare hits I can, whether by sword or by bow. It takes a while, but I eventually get all the hits in and take it down. Its death spawns a chest containing the hookshot, which lets me latch onto certain targets and drag myself to them. While this is one of the more underused hookshots in the series, it might have my favourite design. I just like the little guard that covers the back of the hand. I use it to reach the hammer switch on one of these platforms on the wall so I can open the door and get back out. There are several platforms leading back up to the first floor that I can now traverse using the hookshot. Using a combination of those and springs, I end up back in front of Makar's cell. By putting on the iron boots and hookshotting the target on the stone's forehead, I can pull it down. I did forget that I can crush myself with it though. Makar's cell has a chest inside containing a joy pendant. With Makar free, I take control and drop down to the bottom where there's a little side hole where I can plant 2 more trees. This activates the fan in the floor, giving me a much faster way to move between the floors. I return to the room I found my first key, and with the spikes down, the Armos are active. I kill them all and some green choo-choos come in, then some floor masters. I break all the cracked floors after this to spawn another chest in the back. This one gets me treasure chart 35. Back in the main room I float to the very top to find another chest with another joy pendant inside. I drop back down to the switch that opened up the floor and break open this warp pot I missed. I float to the top again, and to the right of the segment with the chest is one with a door. The door locks behind me and I have to fight 7 Armos at once. I take them out one by one and a door opens in the back to reveal another chest. This one has another key inside. I return to the room Makar got captured in. I left him behind at the bottom of the main room by the way, and hookshot up the trees he planted to reach the door. Turns out leaving Makar behind was a mistake and I go bring him back. This room is filled with bubbles and more soil for Makar to grow trees from. I have him grow a series of hookshot targets up to wherever the next door is and have Link follow them to him. I go through the door back into the main room on the opposite side of this wall. There are 2 switches and I have 2 characters, so they both get pressed and the grate on the bottom floor opens up along with this wall I was behind. It can wait first as I bring Makar back to the room with the slab. There was also a chest I missed off to the side with another joy pendant in it. We play the Wind God's Aria to get rid of the slab and reveal the door behind. Behind it is a trio of dark nuts, 2 regular dark nuts and 1 with a shield. I take those out to open a wall so that I can reach this chest containing the big key. Back to the main room, I wait for the fan to stop so I can drop below the grate and find a locked door to open. The next door in this room is barred, leaving me to need to fight 2 Stalfos and a Wizrobe. After that I need to navigate more platforms along the wall with the hookshot until I land on this one with another switch requiring the iron boots. Pressing it removes the bars, but first there are more stone heads along the walls to pull off like the one blocking Makar's cell. They're hiding bokoblins and killing them spawns a chest with treasure chart 5 inside. I go through the door to find a long path with bokoblins and Armos knights on the way. At the end of the path are 4 fans blowing along this gap. I have Makar fly over the wind to the other side and plant a tree there. This turns off the fans and I can hookshot across. I cross the rest of the bridge and go through the door at the end. This next room has 3 propellers blowing me back along with 3 blade traps sliding between the walls. But there are 3 blocks at the start of this room. I use 2 of them to trap the first 2 blade traps against the walls and then the third to bridge this gap where the third one is. I then rearrange the first 2 so that only one is blocking the first 2 blades and then take the second one over the third block to trap the third blade so that I can take Makar across without getting ran through. Behind the winds is a doorway to another slab that I can destroy with the Wind God's Aria. Behind it is the final warp pot to open and the boss door. I go inside and the arena is massive, just a huge room filled with sand and a round stone floor in the middle. The room starts to fill with more sand and the boss emerges, Molgera. Molgera's boss music is great, but I feel it's treated as the only one that matters and is the only one to get brought up often. I actually like Phantom Gannon's and the final boss seems more than this, and Godan's theme is just as great. I get the photo I need and start taking him on. Molgera likes to pop his head out of the sand and stick his tongue out. I can hookshot that tongue to pull it towards me and give it a beating. He'll bury his head and send out a few Molgera spawn which are easily defeated or ignored. When I see the sand level lower before me, I know his head is there so I move out of the way to avoid getting eaten and pull his tongue out again for another thrashing. After the second cycle, Molgera bursts from the ground and flies around the arena. He flies towards me with his mouth open, but I avoid it while he goes underground again. He rises again, but my ignoring his spawn comes back to bite me as they interfere with my targeting. While trying to fight them, I forget Molgera and get myself eaten and spat out. After he flies around some more, I pull his tongue in for one more beating to finish him off. I like the Wind Temple more than the game's first 2 dungeons, but not as much as the Tower of the Gods or the Earth Temple. Makar just isn't as fun to play as the Medley for me, but I feel the game knew that, which is why they get him out of the way for such a big chunk of it. I'll leave my thoughts on the overall selection of dungeons for the end of the video. The excess sand drains from the room and I grab the final heart container in the game, just some stray heart pieces left. I once again stand on the glowing Triforce mark and Makar comes in. Like with the Earth Temple, the 2 play the song learned here and Fado joins in. The prayers are answered and the Master Sword is fully powered, regaining its light and giving the blade a permanent white glow. As with Medley, Makar will stay down here and continue to pray for the Master Sword's power. He has Link step into the light to be teleported out. Outside, the King of Red Lions and the Fishman are talking. The Fishman is telling him that there is simply nothing and nobody at the Forsaken Fortress anymore. The King is concerned, but the Fishman doesn't get it. All he sees is the monsters being gone from the world, and he leaves. The King fills Link in on what he's heard. Furthermore, Ganondorf hasn't been seen since Valu fried him, and he certainly is not dead. He's very worried about Tetra, and tells Link to find the shards of the Triforce of Courage so they can return to Hyrule and check on her. Well, I already found 1 shard last episode, so we're off to a good start. But first, I return to Tingle Island. I obtained all the Tingle statues, and now, standing in the middle of them all, is the 3rd Tingle brother, Knuckle. And the statue blocks my view of him. It seems he was unable to return to the island without the presence of all 5 statues on it, somehow. I get a picture. Knuckle used to be optional for the final reward for completing the figurine gallery, as his appearance required the use of the Tingle Tuner, so they chose not to punish players for not having a GBA or the link cable. However, if you filled out the rest of the gallery first, then got yourself those things and got Knuckle to appear, you would then still be unable to obtain Knuckle's figurine anyway, leaving you with an empty pedestal you couldn't fill. On the Wii U they changed it. Knuckle doesn't require a peripheral and so his figurine is also required to complete the quest. Speaking of figurines, I hand in my photos to get some more. The Forsaken Fortress room gains the Red Wiz Robe and Molgera. The Great Sea room gains Knuckle, which says he built the Tingle Tower when he was 10 years old and makes a little reference to his previously optional nature. Next is those 2 new treasure charts. The Islet of Steel is where I find the treasure of chart 35, a silver rupee. While I'm here, I hang around and shoot down all the enemy ships, including the one blocking the entrance. This lets me enter the fortress where there's a spot for me to play the Wind God's Requiem to spawn a chest. This one contains a Triforce chart, but I can't read it so I need someone to decipher it. I next sail to the Thorn Fairy Island for chart 5's treasure, the second to last piece of heart. Next is Windfall Island. I keep shooting my arrows so I can buy more from Beedle to build up points. I finally reached the 30 points he teased at the start of the game. I now have a silver membership and proof will be sent to the nearest post box. He next tells me to aim for the gold membership, so I keep wasting more arrows and buying more to build up 60 points. He says the gifts for each gold membership will also be sent to a post box, so I check it out and get the letters. For silver membership I receive a complimentary ID. For gold membership I receive a 1-use fill-up coupon which grants 1 full restocking of all my arrows and bombs. Next I revisit Lenzo. After clearing the 2 temples, Lenzo will start talking about his legendary pictographs. These are photos he obtained of people who the knowledge of has just about disappeared from the world. He's willing to pass them on to me, for a price. 150 rupees per photo. Lenzo will give out 1 photo a day and what he gives you is based on what phase the moon was the previous night. Since last night was a full moon, I get a photo of Ganondorf. So I leave and play the Song of Passing to buy another. I do it until I have all 7. Waning Gibbous gets me the Great Fairy. Last Quarter gets me Jaboon. Waning Crescent gets me the Queen of Fairies. Waxing Crescent gets Fado. First Quarter gets Laruto, and Waxing Gibbous gets King Daphnes. I take them over to the Forest Haven to get them made. The Forest Haven room is now complete with the addition of Fado's figurine. I have Laruto, which also completes the Dragon Roost Island room. The Forsaken Fortress room gains Ganondorf. Since this is the best chance, let's talk about his design in this game. When I first saw it at 11 years old, I didn't know what to make of it, but as I've got older I've learned to really appreciate it. The slight gut, wider face and the long robe with the baggy sleeves that blow in the wind give off a perfect retired warrior vibe, which fits this Ganondorf as being the last holdover from the Hyrule of Ocarina of Time. Of the now 4 designs Ganondorf has had across the main games, I could not choose one as being better than the other 3, since they all do a perfect job of showcasing a different aspect of his character or period of his life. Meanwhile, the Outset Island room gained the Jaboon figurine, completing 3 rooms in 1 visit. The Great Sea room gains the Great Fairies, which say they were born in the Angular Isles, the Queen of Fairies, King Daphnes, and coming free with his figurine is one of Princess Zelda. I'm only missing 3 figurines altogether now. Next thing I do is return to Paw-Print Isle. With the hook shot I can hook onto this tree here on this little island where I find a hole. It's another monster den. I have some wizrobes to fight while they call in more enemies. Fire Keese, Yellow Choo-Choos, Bokoblins, Morph and Moblins. Taking them all out spawns a chest. This one contains Treasure Chart 46, a Wii U exclusive and the final treasure chart in the game. This one's treasure can be found in the Two-Eye Reef. My final treasure chart gets me my final piece of heart and maxes out my health. Of course, since this chart is Wii U exclusive, there was some shuffling going on, but I can't remember where this was moved from. My next destination is Diamond Step Island, northwest of Outset Island. But it turns out there was one last big octo I missed in this area. He has 8 eyes and I take him down very easily. Previously I couldn't even get on Diamond Step Island, but now I have the hook shot, I can latch onto the trees and get climbing. As I make my way up the island, near the top is the 20-second blue choo-choo for me to mug a jelly from. At the top of the island is a hole, and what it drops me into looks like an indoor ship graveyard. In here I have to navigate several warp pots to reach for treasure. First there's the one at the start. From here there's another pot right in front of me and one to the left. I take the one in front to an area with a pot in each corner. Thinking of the one I entered from as the front right, I get in the back right pot. That one puts me on top of one of the ships with another 3 in the corners again. Once again, if the one I came from was the front right, I get in the back left pot. I'm spat out even higher up where there is a chest containing the Ghost Ship chart. This will tell me which island I can find it at depending on the moon phase and will allow me to get inside. In the second area there was a third pot hidden behind a wall. It takes me to another chest containing a joy pendant. That's all for this place, so I leave and warp to Greyfish Isle. I then keep skipping time until I get the correct moon phase to make the ghost ship appear. It just takes a few uses of the Song of Passing and there it is. With this chart all I have to do is just sail into it to get inside. After the build up, the inside is just another submarine battle but with a cool glowing blue floor. I have to kill a couple wizrobes and pose and that's it. The ladder drops down and I can reach the chest that grants me my second Triforce chart. Link is jump scared by some kind of laughter and dumped out, the ghost ship disappearing from the game completely. I go south of the Tower of the Gods. I've owned the deed to this cabana since before I opened the Tower of the Gods, but had no need to go inside until now. The butler is still a prick until I show him the deed, which suddenly has him change his tune and welcome me inside. Inside would be nice and cosy if it weren't for these several living cardboard cutout butlers forming a circle around the walls and staring me down. There's a picture of Zill on the wall and opposite it a sliding puzzle to try and copy that picture. I am terrible at sliding puzzles, so I give up after a bit. There's a switch hanging from the ceiling. I grapple onto it to weigh it down and put the fire out so I can drop down the hole in the fireplace. I end up in a maze where certain paths are barred off. I keep moving right at every turn to find a ladder further down to 2 crawl spaces. At the turns, going left or all the way forward leads to pots filled with rupees. Going right leads to a ladder going up to 2 hammer switches that open gates. I go through the left one to drop down to 2 more tunnels to crawl through and take the left one. It leads to a chest with an orange rupee inside. I then take the right one which leads to a ladder going back up. There's a hammer switch here that opens up the gate near the start and another hole to drop down. I wonder if Mrs. Marie knew that when she was here, she was bathing and sleeping with 2 redeads underneath her. I crawl through the tunnel here to another ladder back up. There's the final hammer switch and a place to play the Wind God's Requiem to spawn another chest. This one has my 3rd Triforce shard inside. Now I can go back up. Time to deal with this sliding puzzle. I did eventually work out a solution of starting by completing the corner, but coming back to the recording and knowing what I did, I still can't remember how. Slider puzzles just don't agree with me. Completing this one turns on a light, of which there are 20, meaning there are 20 of these things. It also makes a door butler shit out a load of rupees. The second puzzle is of Arrel, the third is Tingle, the fourth is Salvatore, the fifth is Tetra, then it's Makar, then Medley, then the King of Red Lions, then Orca, Link's Grandma, Doc Bandam, Quill, Nico, Beedle, a Moblin, and finally the Helmarok King. That was like an hour and a half just to turn some pissing lights on. 3 of those puzzles on that butler, I sail to the seas around Needle Rock Isle. There are some enemy warships here to shoot down. Doesn't sound too out of the ordinary, but one of them is gold. I shoot that one down to have it leave behind a light ring. I pull up the treasure box for it to be another Triforce shard. I get off at Needle Rock and use my fire arrows to melt the ice covering this hole. Down here is another ship graveyard and a torch to light. I can't move from this section, but there are other torches further in the back. One on the right ship, one behind the fence and one on the left ship. One all the way high up in the back and the last one in the far back in the middle. This spawns a chest with an orange rupee inside. All the way in the northeast corner of the sea was Overlook Isle, another place I couldn't get on without the hookshot. While climbing up here I find the final blue choo-choo in the game and can max out that counter at 8 after the 15 I spent creating the blue potion. I hookshot my way to the top to find another hole. Here is another of the enemy fighting caves. As usual, 4 doors and I go clockwise. First room has 3 Armos Knights, second has 2 Stalfos, third has 2 Wizrobes, and fourth has 5 Bokoblins hiding in pots. Once all are cleared out, the main room gains 4 shield Darknuts to fight at once. Take them all out to unlock the final door, play the Wind God's Requiem on the pedestal to spawn a chest, and get myself the 4th Triforce Shard. Bird's Peak Rock next. I came here before to find this gate in my way. I use a Hyoe pair to take control of a seagull and have to fly up these tall rocks hitting switches and avoiding cargo rocks. Or I could just kill them like I should have done at the start and then send the seagull out. Hitting all 5 switches opens the gate and lets me drop down the hole. Once again I have to play the Wind God's Requiem to spawn a chest containing my 3rd and final Triforce Shard. In the GameCube original there were 8 Triforce charts, 1 for every shard, but people found getting 8 charts, deciphering them all and then hunting down the 8 shards tedious. So they just made 5 of the chart chests just give you the Triforce shards instead and cut the chart hunting down to 3. And like many others, I too think it was an improvement. When I first played this game, it took me a year of on and off playing to finish it, and that was thanks to the Triforce hunt. Next up is Outset Island. Up on the cliff, I use the Deku Leaf to float over to the Stonehead Icon lift to reveal another hole. This is the Savage Labyrinth, a 50-floor cave filled with enemies, the first floor being just the entrance. These first few floors are themed after Dragon Roost Cavern. Floor 2 has me fight 10 Keese, Floor 3 has 6 Mini-Blins, Floor 4 has 4 Bokoblins, Floor 5 has 6 Red Choo-Choos, Floor 6 has 4 Magtails, Floor 7 has 4 Keese and 4 Mini-Blins, Floor 8 has 4 Fire Keese and 4 Magtails, Floor 9 has 2 Fire Keese and 4 Bokoblins, Floor 10 has 2 Moblins. Every 10th floor is a rest floor with pots that contain hearts and an exit if I want to leave now. The next 10 floors are themed after the Forbidden Woods. Floor 12 is 6 Peahats, Floor 13 is 4 Green Choo-Choos, Floor 14 is 5 Bokobabbas, Floor 15 is 4 Bokoblins, Floor 16 is 5 Mothula, Floor 17 is 3 Bokobabbas and 3 Peahats, Floor 18 is 4 Bokoblins and 4 Green Choo-Choos, Floor 19 is 3 Mothula and 2 Bokoblins, Floor 20 is 2 Winged Mothula. I reached Floor 21 with just 2.5 hearts lost, so I was still fine. Now they're based on the Tower of the Gods. Floor 22 is 3 Wizrobe, Floor 23 is 4 Armos, Floor 24 is 2 Armos Knights, Floor 25 is 6 Yellow Choo-Choos, Floor 26 is 4 Red Bubbles, Floor 27 is 2 Bokoblins and a Darknut, Floor 28 is 3 Armos and a Wizrobe, Floor 29 is 2 Armos Knights and 2 Red Bubbles, Floor 30 is 2 Darknuts. Tougher enemies this time, so I lost 6 hearts across these 9 floors. On Floor 31 there is another spot to play the Wind God's Requiem to spawn a chest. It contains my 5th Triforce Shard and the last one that doesn't require a chart. I only need to go this far down, but I have 20 more floors left. I reflect light onto this statue to get rid of it and free the hole down to the next 9 floors. Floor 32 is 6 Redeads, Floor 33 is 5 Blue Bubbles, Floor 34 is 6 Purple Choo-Choos, Floor 35 is 5 Pose, Floor 36 is 3 Winged Mothula, Floor 37 is 3 Redeads and 2 Moblins, Floor 38 is 5 Purple Choo-Choos and a Winged Mothula, Floor 39 is 5 Pose and 2 Moblins, Floor 40 is 2 Blue Bubbles and 2 Stalfos. I took quite a beating this time, reaching Floor 41 with just 4.25 hearts remaining, and the pots down here just contain rupees. Floor 42 ramps things up with 24 Mini-Blins. Floor 43 makes me face a wave of 10 red, then 10 green and 10 yellow Choo-Choos. I end up with less than a heart remaining. So when Floor 44 has 5 Wizrobes, I end up using a fairy I think I've had for several dungeons now. Floor 45 has 16 Bokoblins. Floor 46 is 4 Redeads and 2 Stalfos. Floor 47 is 3 Moblins and 2 Darknuts. This one leaves me with just 2 hearts, and so when Floor 48 has 3 Wizrobes, 2 Darknuts and an electric barrier around the walls, I finally put the magic armour to use. With 5,000 rupees, I'd really need to let them kick my head in to be in any danger. Floor 49 is 3 Stalfos and a load of Bonflowers to use against them. Then Floor 50 is 5 Shield Darknuts in a room surrounded by fire-breathing Moblin statues. This last room alone took 1,400 rupees from me. But down on the final floor is another chest that gives me the Hero's Charm. A weird mask that putting on lets me see enemy life bars, but not bosses. On the GameCube you got this from Mrs. Marie for giving her 40 joy pendants, but for whatever reason they moved it here on Wii U. Before I move on, I want to max out some spoils. Thanks to the sheer amount of Bokoblins and the chests that grant joy pendants, I've maxed those already. I run up the Forest Haven grappling Bokobabbas, entering Beedle's shop and leaving to reset them until I have 99 Bokobabba seeds. Next is this room in the Forbidden Woods. There's a few Peahats huddled together and I keep resetting them to earn 99 golden feathers, and on the way out I reach 99 green chew jellies. I return to Pauper in Tile and drop down into the cave in the middle. This is the place I used the red choo-choos. There was also this boulder here that I couldn't get past first time I visited, so I bomb it and get the chest behind it for a purple rupee. There's another boulder to blow up hiding a chest with another joy pendant inside. After that it's a few minutes of farming to get 99 red chew jelly. That just leaves skull necklaces and knight's crests, but they'll have to wait a bit longer. I never tried the boating course, so I give that a go before I finish the game. I just have to stay within the lines and time my jumps over these barrels right to get as many rupees as I can before I reach the finish line and before the time runs out. I finish with 148 rupees and 2¼ minutes remaining. Now to decipher those Triforce charts. I warp to Tingle Island and chat with him. He can sense the undeciphered maps on me, but also charges me 398 rupees per map, meaning a total cost of 1,194 rupees to translate them all, cut down from the 3,184 it costs on the GameCube. With them all deciphered, I warp to Greatfish Isle and can see the Pillar of Light, pulling myself up my 6th Triforce shard. The next one is nearby at Stonewatcher Isle, 7 shards, just 1 left. And finally, east of the Forest Haven at Clifftop Plateau is my 8th and final Triforce shard. The shards come together in my equipment menu to form the full Triforce of Courage. The King of Red Lion says we must now hurry to Hyrule. So I return to the Tower of the Gods. The King tells Link to show his completed Triforce to the gods. Apparently Link just keeps the Triforce in his shirt. He holds it up and the portal back to Hyrule opens up again. Link has also gained the Triforce mark on the back of his hand. The King tells Link that the gods have recognised his power and that from now on he will be known as the Hero of Winds. Then they enter the portal and descend back into Hyrule. I go back inside the castle, but it looks in even worse shape. The Hero of Time statue has been destroyed and lays in pieces on the floor. The stairs to the hidden basement have also been left open. As I check it out, Tetra can still be seen where I left her. Except no, as she disappears when Link approaches her. Ganondorf has a good laugh, thinking we must be so stupid to think Hyrule Castle would ever be a safe place to hide her. He has a point, it's literally the only other place he has access to down here. His own power has returned and he traps me in a ring of fire and drops 2 mighty Dark Nuts in to deal with me. They're just stronger versions of the shield Dark Nuts, and make sure to get a picture. Cutting off their armour takes a few more hits than usual as they also have a cape in the way of the armour straps. Apart from that, they just take more hits and I kill them both. The ring disappears and I go back up the stairs. Link runs to the front door and the barrier disappears. Outside, that purple barrier is still there, but with my fully powered Master Sword, I can cut through it. The barrier that was supposed to keep the enemy out of the castle is shattered. It was no longer able to serve its purpose anyway. I cross the bridge and get running along this linear path. There are a few monsters on the way, starting with Peahats and Choo-Choos and working up to Moblins. I run uphill and I can see just how bad a hiding place Hyrule Castle is when I can see Ganon's tower right in front of me. Of course Ganondorf found Tetra. She was a 2-minute walk away from his house. There's a Dark Nut in my way and a couple hookshot targets across this broken bridge before I enter the final dungeon in the game, Ganon's tower. The first room is simple, just containing a door with Pig Ganon markings on it. Through that we have this main room. The door further in is opposite me, but I can't open it. It's locked with 4 different markings on it. There are also 4 bridges connected to the middle of the room, all leading to a door each. I go through the southwestern bridge to the door there. It places me in this lava-filled room themed after Dragonroost Cavern. I have a pool of lava with a couple rock platforms floating in it and a series of grapple points I have to alternate between to reach the door at the end. In here I have to face Gohma again. The fight is unchanged but the music is distorted and the entire room, boss included, is in grayscale. On the GameCube, since you couldn't get Verilux Pictograph until you reached the Forest Haven, this fight was the only chance you had to get Gohma's figurine on a first playthrough. It seems a black and white photo is acceptable for a figurine only if the black and white photo was taken on a colour camera. As soon as I hit the killing blow, I get warped back into the middle of the main room, a Gohma marking lighting up on the locked door. Next I try the northwest door. This one is themed after the Forbidden Woods. The challenge for this one is Deku Leaf platforming, using propellers to move platforms along and waiting for the platform tentacles to move. Only slightly more complex than the last room and I reach the door. Grayscale Calle Demos, and it is dead. The northeast door next into an Earth Temple based room with a lot of coffins. The first section is a straight line with the odd redead or bubble coming out of one of the coffins. There's a switch that lowers the stairs to the door at the end, but it needs to be weighed down. There's a purple Choo-Choo in some of the next set of coffins, so I petrify one and leave it on the switch. There's another switch and corridor of coffins before the door, so I just do the same thing again and I can reach it. Jalhalla. Jalhalla dead. That just leaves the southeastern door. Here I have to use a combination of iron boots, springs and the Deku Leaf to end up below the door. Then I can just hookshot up and go through. Molgera. Done. With all 4 markings on the door lit up, the entire door crumbles, letting me go deeper into the tower. Next room has me running up some stairs and taking out some mini blinds to reach the next door. This next room has 3 more doors, one each on the left and right and a brick one I can't open. I start by going left into this room with water and 4 crystal switches above me on the walls. I need to hit them with the boomerang in the correct order. To find out what that is, I have to check out the room on the right. It's very similar, but where the switches would be are 4 torches, each one with a different amount of candles lit from 1 to 4. I have to hit the crystals in ascending order of lit candles. This opens up a portal and allows the King of Red Lions into the tower. He says this must be the portal Ganondorf was using to travel between Hyrule and the world above. I can use this portal to return to the Great Sea, and I will need to soon. I return to the right room where there is a stone written by Ganondorf saying that the sword hilts of his servants shall lead the way to him. I jump into the hole in this room to end up in a small labyrinth. And look who's hanging down here, it's Phantom Ganon. He's even got a new move. He's learned Ganondorf's big charging multi-magic ball attack from Ocarina of Time. Timing a spin attack right will reflect them all back at him. Hitting him once after he's stunned will make him disappear, but leave his sword. There are 4 doors in this room, but as the stone said, I follow the direction the hilt land's pointing and go through that door. Or I could. Instead I go through the opposite door to find a room with 4 moblins. So I keep leaving and re-entering this room and keep stealing off them for the next 10 minutes until I max out at 99 skull necklaces. I go through the correct door next time and have to face Phantom Ganon again. He surrounds me with 4 copies and hitting the correct one will stun him and let me damage him. I follow the hilt and then take him on a 3rd time, and then a 4th time, and a 5th, and a 6th. The 6th hilt leads me to a dark room with only one other door. I defeat Phantom Ganon a 7th time to make a chest spawn. This one contains the final item in the game, the light arrows. Going through the next door will take me back to the main room, and Phantom Ganon shows up for an 8th round, 9th when you count the first Forsaken Fortress fight. But this time a single light arrow annihilates him. He's gone, but his sword still remains. Said sword I used to break open the brick door in the back of the room. But first I have one last thing I want to do in the labyrinth. From where I drop in, I take the back, left, and front doors to find a room filled with darknuts. Another thing the light arrows do is instantly erase an enemy, but they still leave item mobs behind. I kill the 3 darknuts, the 3 Knights' Crests, then use their swords to smash the pillars to gain magic jars. Having only 3 darknuts at a time, it takes longer than any other spoil. But I eventually build up my 99 Knights Crests and have the highest amount of every spoil in the game. I can now return to the main room and progress further into the tower. In here I have a few sets of stairs up to a big door, with strong enemies at the end of every set. First a Moblin, then a Shield Darknut, then 2 Moblins. Finally, 2 more Mighty Darknuts to unlock the big fancy door and let me through. It leads into this large round room with a watery floor. In the middle of the room is a curtain, and behind it, the sinister sight of Ganondorf hovering over Tetra asleep in bed. The Triforce of Power can somehow let him see her dreams, and she dreams about nothing but empty oceans. Tetra's dreams are fucking boring. Ganondorf asks if the king told Link that the gods sealed away Hyrule and left behind a few that may be able to find it again. Ganondorf finds the idea unbelievable, as he doubts the remaining descendants scattered across a few small islands are capable of achieving anything like that. He gives his own interpretation, that the gods destroyed their world and abandoned them. He says he's been waiting for a new hero for a while, and does not want to be disappointed. Ganondorf turns pitch black and it is revealed that it was not the real one as he morphs into Puppet Ganon. As usual, first thing to do is take a photo. This is another one where the good marker is very useful. Before, I would have to take the photo, then save and reset the game before killing it to make sure the photo is acceptable. Puppet Ganon is attached to the ceiling by strings. While it spits fire and throws fists at me, I keep throwing the boomerang at those strings, requiring a few hits to cut them. Cutting the head stops the fire breath, cutting the arm stops the punches, and cutting the legs lowers its mobility. My target is the blue ball on the end of its tail. It can still hit me with the tail until I cut that string too. Cutting the tail down will also make it move less, which makes it much easier for me to hit it with a light arrow. Once it takes damage, it will rise up and drop back down with all the strings repaired. Sometimes if you target the tail string while it's spinning around, it could get a bit confused and leave you waiting a while for it to hit its target and return. I did always find it weird that Ganondorf would even create this. I get Phantom Ganon, but I never knew he was into puppets as well. It takes 3 light arrows to the tail to defeat it. It rises up into the air like a normal boss defeat cutscene, but actually transforms into a second form, the spider form. It will float around the room and pick a spot to just drop and try to crush me. The orb is on the end of what its sack would be. That's about it for this form. It doesn't do anything else and I would call it the easiest form. 3 hits also defeats this one. But it's got one more form left in it as it transforms into a snake. Here it swims around the room swinging its tail around but not always aiming at me. And just to make things more annoying, there are constant morphs dropping in to slow me down. This form can be done very quickly, it just depends on your aim and a bit of luck. As usual, 3 more hits and it's done. It explodes and leaves behind the red rope holding its body up. Ganondorf sees this as confirmation that this Link is a reincarnation of the Hero of Time, as he hides up in the giant chandelier holding Tetra. He flies up to the top of the tower, challenging Link to follow him. I climb up the rope to the chandelier, then grapple to the nearby point and climb onto that too. I keep grappling higher until I reach the top of the chandelier and break open this last warp pot, the other being down at the bottom of this room. The door is locked behind me and I need to leave, so I save and reset the game to start outside the room. Ganon's tower is alright. The first part with the rooms leading to the boss rematches feels like a weaker version of the first part of Ganon's castle in Ocarina of Time with the barriers. The maze part is also just alright and then it's just some stairs. It also feels kind of generic in terms of atmosphere compared to other final dungeons. But the Puppet Ganon boss helps it out a lot. One of the overall weaker final dungeons in the 5 classic 3D games, I'd say. The portal takes me back out to the Forsaken Fortress and I return to the Forest Haven. I hand in my 2 photos and with the additions of the Mighty Dark Nut and Puppet Ganon figurines, the Forsaken Fortress room is complete. That's also every possible photo I can hand in. If I leave and return, Karlov is gone. Manny says he left one last figurine and took off. He left a note saying that he had made every figurine he could possibly want to and has left on a journey to search for a new calling. Manny guesses that this means Link is the new master of the Nintendo Gallery. Between the Daphnes and Zelda figurines in the Great Sea Room is the final figurine, one of Link and the King of Red Lions. And that's why you could miss Knuckles' figurine forever on the GameCube. Get all the others and there will be no Karlov around to make it for you. There isn't really a reward for this, but I'm fine with that. For me, the collecting and the filling up the rooms is its own reward. I really wish more Zelda games had this and that they found a way to put it in the 3DS remakes of the N64 games. It's like the trophies in Smash. There's just something so satisfying to me to have this little side thing that gives every minor NPC and enemy model in the game their own acknowledgement. For example, I can remember the names of most of Wind Waker's NPCs going years without playing the game thanks to this. Whereas with, say, Twilight Princess, I'd need my memory jogging on most outside of the important ones. But that's everything in the game finished. Everything except Ganondorf. So I return to the top of that chandelier and hookshot over to this open door. We're on the top of this tower. This is the 6th Zelda game where some form of Ganon has had a physical presence, and now we're finally getting to know him a bit more. He talks about the harsh experience of leading a people living in the Gerudo Desert, the blistering heat during the day and unbearable cold at night, and his neighbours were Hyrule with their green fields and livable land. And he was jealous and wanted that life. All of this makes Ganondorf a more interesting character than he has been in any other game. It makes him more than just a guy who's after power for power's sake. But of course when he gets that power, he forgets all about his own people and leaves them in that desert, using it only to service himself. And those actions led to his situation now. His home is gone and the people he initially set out to make a better life for are gone with it. He is the only remaining being from the Hyrule of that time. Or he could just be full of shit and making excuses for himself, that's possible too. He doesn't actually mention the other Gerudo, he could just be saying he wanted the better life for himself. I feel the game leaves it open enough for you to believe either interpretation. Ganondorf believes it can only be fate that once again the 3 pieces of the Triforce would gather at the top of his tower, held by him, a Princess of Hyrule and a hero with the Master Sword. He already has Tetra's Triforce of Wisdom, so all that remains between him and the power of the gods is Link. They stare each other down and Ganondorf rushes in, as we freeze on this beauty. That's a sight I never forgot, even 18 years later. I know Tears of the Kingdom recently gave us a new hilarious Ganondorf face, but this tops all others to me. That's why it's on the Part 5 thumbnail. Ganondorf gives Link a few punches and knocks the Master Sword out of his hand, almost stabbing Tetra in the head. As Link lay defeated, Ganondorf reassures him that he won't kill him, he just needs the power he holds. He uses his own Triforce to extract the other 2 pieces along with his own to form the full thing. Ganondorf starts to make his wish to the Triforce, to release Hyrule to the land above and give it to him. But he gets too overdramatic and draws it out too long. It's whoever touches the Triforce who gets the wish, and he gave Daphnes the chance to touch it first. And he has a very different wish. For the children he's been watching over and guiding all this time to have a future. That can't happen with Hyrule still around and these 2 remnants fighting over it. So he asks the gods to let the flood in and wash Hyrule away forever, letting Ganondorf drown with it. The Triforce leaves and after all these incalculable years, Ganondorf takes it really well. He has a good hearty chuckle about it as the protection around Hyrule fades and the ocean comes falling in around him. An uncomfortably long 30-second belly laugh. The idea that these kids even have a future is just too funny to him. Then Tetra comes in, calling him insane while returning the Master Sword to Link. She tells him they should probably get going because of that whole drowning danger, But Ganondorf has taken back his claim that he won't kill Link. If he's going down with Hyrule, he's taking them with him. And the final boss battle starts with Tetra swiping my bow. People complain about Zelda in Smash using Link's spells, but they forget that about 90% of Zelda's combat legacy is stealing Link's equipment. Tetra will shoot light arrows at Ganondorf to stun him and give me the chance to strike. When not stunned, he blocks and parries everything. For being the heaviest Ganondorf has been in the series, he's also the most agile he's ever been in this game, speeding around and doing fancy spinning dodge flips. While I said the dungeon leading up to him was generic in atmosphere, the final battle definitely is not. Seeing the country most of the games we've played before this have been set in, being buried under endless ocean water while Link and Zelda fight together for the first time in a game against the Ganondorf who has nothing left but to drag them down alongside him, is incredibly cool. Plus, my favourite music track in the game. Not to mention, this is the first time we've seen Link and Ganondorf get up close with each other with swords. No floating out of reach and throwing spells or hiding behind a beast form. In fact, this is the only game in which Ganondorf's human form is the only one that appears, which also helps it stand out. After enough hits, Ganondorf gets fed up with Tetra shooting him so soon after she's woken up and puts her back to sleep. Without the light arrows, the only way I can stun Ganondorf is through parries. It only takes a couple of these for Tetra to get back up and rejoin the fight. But at this point, Ganondorf has worked out our strategies and will now block my parries and avoid every light arrow. He even manages to bait Tetra into shooting me. But what he hasn't realised is that I've had the magic armour on the entire fight, so he could never hurt me. Tetra comes up with an idea. She'll aim at me and I'll use my mirror shield while he's distracted to reflect it. Of course, you have to make sure he isn't swinging for you as she fires to knock the shield out of its way. But eventually... and that's it. A Ganondorf may appear in the future, but this Ganondorf, the one that caused all your problems and so much destruction in Ocarina of Time, the one that Link and Zelda could not kill, only contain and leave to future generations, is dead. I've seen some believe it's just a form of sealing thanks to him being turned to stone, but I just see that as an artistic choice to fit in with the game's art style and age rating. Link is so exhausted Tetra has to hold him up. Daphnes tells him that he has spent a long time regretting his past, thinking about how if he could only have another chance to save his kingdom, he would. All the years spent wanting his old world back, he sees himself as no different than Ganondorf. But he doesn't want the kids stuck bound to that same past anymore. He wants them to be able to build their own future. However, he says this is goodbye, and that the world above is all he and the gods could leave them, for which he is deeply sorry. Tetra suggests that he can simply go up to the surface with them, and with them they can journey out to find a new land to become the next Hyrule. But that new land will not be his Hyrule, it will belong to them and he sees himself as having no place in it. The rest of the ocean comes flooding in as Link and Tetra are dragged to the surface. Link stretches out his hand to Daphnes, but he turns it down, content to go out with his kingdom with the knowledge that these two kids can create a better future. Also, after the release of Skyward Sword, we now know that's two different game's companion characters drowning together. Link and Tetra wash up on the ocean, with Tetra returned to her true pirate form. They're woken up by Komali staring them in the face and flapping his wings, which sounds like one of the most annoying things to wake up to. And behind them is Tetra's ship, with Aryll waving at them from above. The two groups have a big wave off and even Medli and Makar are there. With the Master Sword at the bottom of the ocean and no Hyrule left, they have no need to pray for the sword's power. The camera pans out on all the waving and the credits start. After the credits, everyone is gathered at Outset Island. Tetra's ship is about to take off, with Link alongside them riding the now lifeless King of Red Lions. They're about to set off to find this land that will become the next Hyrule. His grandmother and Aryll look on in sadness, as who knows how many years it will take to find this new place and then come back and bring everyone over. It's very likely Link's grandmother won't live to see his return, if he even does. When completing a game, I can create a New Game Plus save. This carries over every figurine I had made and starts me with a deluxe pictograph box from the start. There's other slight changes. Aryll now wears a skull dress she wears in the ending throughout the entire game. Instead of the hero's clothes, for Link's birthday he gains the hero's new clothes, made from a special fabric only the honest can see. This means I can play the entire game in his starting outfit. I didn't play any further, but all the ancient Hylian that Valu, the Deku Tree and Jaboon speak are now translated, so you can understand the conversations they are having perfectly. There's also a harder hero mode that removes heart drops throughout the game, but I gain nothing for playing it and would have nothing to say for it, spending another 20 or 30 hours just to say, I beat it again. But yeah, that is The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker. Ignoring Tears of the Kingdom, which is currently too new for me to rank fairly, of the mainline Zelda games, this is definitely in my top 5. Obviously it's not my favourite, I would never do my favourite in the series third. I'll get my biggest negative out of the way first. While I did not dislike any dungeons, when put up against the dungeons of the other 5 classic 3D games as a whole, I find none of them among the worst or the best in comparison, just hanging around the middle. Though this does mean I find them the most consistent in quality. Other games will have dungeons I love so much more while also containing dungeons I greatly dislike. Sailing didn't bother me in its original form like it did for others, but even then the Wii U version makes it all the more convenient. Every island has a purpose and something to do on it, whether contained just to that island like fairy fountains or part of something spanning multiple, like the Blue Choo Choo side quest. And being these small contained bits of land sorted by a grid makes it easier to remember most of them. The story starts enjoyable but gets really good towards the end. I've already praised Ganondorf, but Daphnes makes for a great foil to him, and as a kid, a lot of the messaging from his ending and the choices he made went over my head. It became something I appreciated more as I got older. In fact, just from the perspective of being a sequel to Ocarina of Time, the story of Wind Waker is the one I like most, over Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess. Once again, that's just as a sequel to Ocarina of Time. Those game stories had their own strengths in other areas. Also, please do not take this as a slam on Twilight Princess, this is not what I'm going for, plus I wouldn't want to just outright state my feelings on a game I know I'd like to cover in the future. But I feel there's something you can look into, where this game ends on the Hyrule we know from Ocarina of Time being lost forever and being told not to keep clinging to the past. But then the game got a bad reception before release, and so the next 3D game is pretty blatantly set in the Ocarina of Time Hyrule with most of its locations returning. Once again, not a criticism, just something I got thinking about while seeing the ending again. While I'm at it, this game's Link and Zelda are among my favourites in the series, though neither are my absolute favourite. I'm not one to project my own personality and feelings onto Link like other people prefer to. I just make my own assumption based on his expressions and body language in cutscenes and the like. And this Link is a lot of fun and has a lot of funny moments that help him stand out from all the more serious Links surrounding him. Not that this Link is never serious. Going with a young Link again and keeping him a child the entire game against this middle-aged looking Ganondorf helps reinforce the theme of the regrets of the past becoming a threat to the future. Tetra is a welcome change from all the overly formal or barely present Zeldas that came before her. It helps mix up the dynamic she has with Link by making her less of the quest giver and someone who starts off seeming selfish and only dealing with Link because she's pressured into it, and then slowly showing herself to actually be more thoughtful than she initially comes across as. Plus, as said earlier, the first game to show her fight side by side with Link at the end. Wanna know something? This has been the hardest game to rank since I've started this channel. I always knew it would end up at either number 2 or number 3 in the current ranking. I know I like the game more than Final Fantasy IV, but Pokemon Red, Blue and Yellow have been the biggest obstacle here, as I have been constantly changing my mind over which game I like more, it's so close. You'd think you would know what you like more, wouldn't you? In fact, I've now reached this point writing this in the script and I still haven't settled on it. But after literal months agonising over this, Pokemon goes higher, just by a bit. I've spent more time edging towards Pokemon than I have towards this game, and I may regret this choice right after making the video and locking it in, and I very nearly put Wind Waker on top of the last second. But after thinking for so long about it, this just feels slightly more right to me.